YouTube family. So we are going to be starting a part 2 of Neena Pacholke's life. The first video, we only had the beginning stages of some of the trauma that she had gone through, but there is a lot more of horrific things that Neena had been battling and going through that ultimately pushed her over the edge. It's very sad what happened to her. But let's go over some more information that I found out. So, one of the things I found out is that, according to her mother, Neena had been battling mental health issues for many years. Number one, so she had been, going through mental health issues. They tried to get her help. She was getting some treatment, then she just stopped the treatment. Also, another indicator of trauma in her life is her mother was battling stage 4 breast cancer. So that was another thing that we saw. Finally, she was in a very tumultuous relationship with her fiance. Her fiance was not a perfect guy. He was actually quite toxic. He was an alcoholic, allegedly, they're saying. He cheated on her, allegedly. Also, when she first met him, he was already married. And he had just finalized his divorce this year, I believe back in April, was it? Or earlier this year. He had just finalized his divorce. So this man clearly had a habit of not being faithful. And how you find someone or how you meet someone is how you will lose them. Apparently, Neena found someone else's underwear in their house that they shared. So he was clearly cheating on her. And we're going to get into all the details, guys. This story is messy. And oh my God, this poor girl, Neena, was going through a lot of just turmoil. Just giving you guys some of the synopsis of the things we're going to be delving into. So that happened. Also, before she even self-concluded, she covered a story of someone who had self-concluded on the news station. And after covering the story, she talked to some of her coworkers and she was telling them, I don't understand how anyone could take their life. It's such a selfish act and stuff like that. And so I wonder if that was a cover up. Like, she knew that she was going through trauma. She already had been thinking about ending her life. And I think that was a cover up. I think she was kind of like saying that as a way so people wouldn't know what she was going to do. Another thing, which to me is eerie about this case, and it reminds me of Chesley Chris' story, in that she particularly chose to end her life on August 27th. And she's 27 years old. If anybody remembers the story that we covered with Chesley Chris, she strategically chose to end her life January 30th because she is 30 years old. There is some type of correlation between individuals who plan out their self-conclusions. They like to choose, it's sad, they choose these symbolic days to show the finalization of their life. And so they choose these particular numbers that reflect, for example, their age or some symbolic meaning. And so I thought that was very interesting that she chose August 27th and she's 27 years old, which is similar to Chesley Chris, who ended her life January 30th and she is 30 years old. So let's go into these articles, and it's going to be a bumpy road, guys. It's a very sad what Neena has gone through. Oh my gosh. So the first article just says, beloved Wisconsin news anchor killed herself after finding other women's panties in her home. Actually, I don't want to start with that one yet. I want to start with this one. Our family's broken parents. Yeah, let's start with this one because this is going to be the background story, and then we're going to get into the really trauma stuff that Neena had gone through. So the family says, our family is broken. Parents of Wisconsin news anchor who took her own life 6 weeks before her wedding, breaks their silence as they return from European vacation. And this is so sad because her parents had gone on a vacation to Europe. And they had to return back from their vacation to horrific news of their daughter taking her life. And they had already known that Nina had been going through a lot of mental health issues. So, I mean, to know that, and then they come home from their trip and know their daughter took her life, it's got to be a worst nightmare of any parent. That's just so sad. It's like a horrible way to end a vacation. I can't imagine what her parents are going through. So Neena Pacholke, 27 years old, took her life in her apartment in Wisconsin on Saturday. That was August 27th, guys. She strategically chose that date. She had been thinking about this up until the time she did it. She even told her friends the night before that she was going to end her life. And her friends did not take her seriously. I mean, if my friend said she was going to end her life, I would have not left her side. There was no way I would have let her go home by herself. But, she ended up going home that very night when she told him she was going to do it, and she did. It's just sad. She told her friends that she told her friends that she was basically going to self-conclude and was dead by the time police arrived. So she told her friends what she was going to do. That's the sad part about it. That was her last act of crying out. And I don't think anybody really, I mean, I wouldn't have let her go home. I would have immediately, if my friend said she was going to take her life, I would have already been at her house. There's no way. But she told her friends that, and then by the time the police came there, she was already gone. It's so sad, guys. The news anchor worked for Wow-9 and was due to be married in October. Her parents, Aaron and Lori, were on vacation in Europe at the time. Oh my gosh, can you imagine being on vacation and you hear this news about your daughter being gone? I cannot imagine. This is terrible, guys. They both now shared their grief on social media, which they did. They wrote saying how they just can't believe it. The sister's also traumatized after returning to the U.S. Nina's fiancé, Kyle, is yet to offer a public statement about her death. And I thought that was quite weird. That's when I first covered the story and I didn't hear anything about the fiance speaking. I already felt that was a red flag, and I was like, there's something with the boyfriend. I don't know what it is. And now I realize there is. He was a complete douchebag. He was awful to Kyle. I mean, awful to Nina. Oh my God, he was very arrogant. He even got into a physical altercation with police at a cancer charity event, which we'll get into. He was just awful. He was terrible, and he said horrible things that could have lowered Nina's self-esteem about herself, which we'll go into. That's why he's not talking, because he knows that that information is going to come out, and that the primary reason why she ended her life, which is now seeming to be more similar to the other pageant girl who ended her life over a boyfriend issue. But he was the primary reason that she ultimately ended her life. She had a lot of things that led up to this, which my part one that I talk about, I believe all still segue, because like I said, these are factors. This young girl had already been going through trauma throughout her life, losing her boyfriend, through her true love, because of cancer, and then all the other trauma of working at a job, having to hear all these stories. But you add that and moving away from home, but then you add a horrific traumatic relationship with an alcoholic who just was verbally abusive and just had anger issues and treated her just really bad. That was the tipping point for her. That was like the final straw for this girl who had a long-term history, based on her mother, a long-term history of mental health problems. The devastated family of the Wisconsin news anchor who took her own life this weekend, which they're talking about August 27th, that's a couple weeks ago, just 6 weeks before she was due to get married, have shared their grief, saying, "Our family is broken." Something that the news reports did not know or disclose, the boyfriend, Kyle, ended up breaking up with her. He ended the, so he basically, they weren't going to be getting married, basically. He ended the marriage, or the potential marriage, the wedding, or basically he shut off that. He broke up with her. That was the traumatic tipping point for this girl. She said And apparently she called him or wrote a text to him, told him sorry that she had to leave, basically end her life, and that the pain was too much for her. So that to me is her explicit words that this was the final straw for her when he ended the engagement. And basically, there's allegations he possibly cheated on her because she found underwear in the house, and he kicked her out of the house. There's so much stuff, guys. She ended up moving out of her apartment to move in with this guy, and he kicked her out. He was just awful to her. This man was awful, guys. Wait till you hear about this guy. He's terrible. But Neena was 27 years old. She took her life on Saturday morning at her home in Wausau, Wisconsin, after telling friends that she was basically going to self-conclude, basically. It remains unclear exactly how she died. Police were called to her apartment at 11 a.m., where they found her unresponsive. And let's go down. Neena's death has sent shockwaves. I think that's what they're going to say. Yeah, I was right. Neena's death has sent shockwaves through the community where she lived, but it also stunned strangers around the country. This girl was you guys, this poor girl, her emotions just was so all-consuming, and she just lost sight of reality. She couldn't take the pain of what this guy, Kyle, did to her. A budding television star with a loving family, friends, and a wedding on the horizon, it seemed she had everything to live for. But behind all closed doors, this woman was suffering, which is no excuse to end your life. Of course, the enemy used this as a way to torment this poor young lady. Neena Pacholke killed herself Saturday morning in her home. This is her family. This is her father here. That is her sister, her older sister. And this is her mother, who has stage 4. This is sad, guys. Stage 4 breast cancer. And this woman's actually pretty incredible. Based on her Facebook, she even though she's battling stage 4 breast cancer, she's very active, and just I think she finished this really monumental challenge or physical challenge event, or I think it was like a race or something she did. But it was very inspiring, this woman here. Even though she has stage 4 cancer, she could have easily just shut down and just lost her whole sanity, but she continues to challenge herself to do different I think she ran track. I don't know what she did. She did some type of very monumental physical activity. I don't know if it was a marathon, I think it was, but I thought that was pretty impressive that the mom is she's just amazing to be battling stage 4 cancer. And the thing is, we already know that, so sad, Neena has already had experience with losing and watching the love of her life, Jordan, die from cancer. And now she has to see her mother suffer with breast cancer, stage 4. That's pretty advanced stage of cancer. So imagine the emotional turmoil she had been going through with those two double traumas, the Jordan trauma with the mother now having breast cancer. And now on top of that, she's away from home. So that's another factor, and the job that she's on covering those terrible stories. But on top of all that, guys, look at just all that, she has this horrible, toxic fiance. And she's battling mental health issues. Basically, she has a history of that. So here is the father's post on Facebook. His post on Facebook, he says, absolutely devastated. Our family is broken over the loss of our Neena. God and our faith will guide us. Amazing how many people she touched. She was a gift. Thank you, everyone, for your love and support. So that's what he posted on his Facebook. Pretty sad. I bet he just doesn't even know how to. I can't imagine, you guys. Can you imagine what he's going through? Come home from a fun trip to hear your daughter ended her life. I'm speechless. In a statement on Facebook on Wednesday morning, her father, Aaron, said, absolutely devastated. And we already talked about what he said. Neena's cancer-stricken mother, gosh, Neena just Cancer upon cancer. And then just this crazy. Cancer-stricken mother Lori also shared a tribute on social media. Oh, so sad. She wrote on Twitter, "We appreciate the love and support we are receiving. Please know Neena was receiving treatment for mental health." That's what her mother says. She was already receiving treatment for mental health. She had been battling mental health issues for years. And I believe it started after Jordan died, because she had to suffer 4 years of witnessing the love of her life dwindle away from cancer. And then now her trauma is revived from seeing her mother suffer from stage 4 cancer. And then she gets with this horrible, toxic boyfriend that is the tipping point that truly was the driving force for her to end her life. That was like the final straw. But like I said, that wasn't the sole thing. You have to look at the whole life of a person, because their history is what encompasses these various factors that build up to that final tragic decision. That's why it was important that we talked about part one, because part one gives you the background of her initial mental health issues. And then now this added horrific thing with the horrible boyfriend just was like, it was it. It was like a final straw. Neena's fiance, divorced father of two. So her fiance, Kyle Hassey, he's a divorced father, but he was recently divorced. So that tells me they met. They said that they met at a wedding, and he was married at the time. So she was dating a married man. And they were in a tumultuous, just horrific alcohol binging, argumentative relationship for 2 years while he was still married, you guys. The divorce was not finalized until earlier this year. So it's just, I don't know why she chose to be with a married man. That was already the red flag. The fact that he didn't value his marriage, he was not going to be a good spouse to her. And so he did what was predictable. If he was not able to respect his own wife, he was not going to respect her. And he just walked all over and treated her like trash. It was sad what he did. He's just awful, guys. His name is Kyle Hassey. He has not spoken publicly. He was married until last year. And is still hammering out the details of his divorce when Neena, who was 11 years his junior. So he's 11 years older than her, in a marriage with 2 kids when she met him. I'm telling you, this story, guys, is a mess. It's a mess. Wait till we get into all the details. So there she is, again, 27 years old. Let's look at this real quick. So this is Neena's mother. So Neena's mother is battling, sorry, she's not battling breast cancer, guys. Forgive me. It's lymphoma. She's battling lymphoma. It's stage 4, though, lymphoma. And she was in the hospital receiving treatment. And while she was in the hospital, this is her Facebook. She was in the hospital and she was watching her daughter on the news. Oh, isn't that sweet? So this is her Facebook post, and this is what she said. Delayed post, but shout out to St. Joe's Women's Hospital for having smart TVs in rooms so I could watch Neena. Oh, so she's watching her baby girl on the news. That is so sad. And then here is a picture. There's Neena with the little monkey, and that's Kyle, his toxic self, y'all. That's the demon. I'm just saying, this man is a mess. The stuff that I read, I was like, oh my gosh. So this is the guy that I think was that final tipping point for her. She already had a bunch of trauma, and now it just added that final tipping point that drove her over the edge and just tragically caused her to do what she did. And I believe it was all spiritually led by the enemy, and her just giving up. You know, she turned even her back against God. I mean, she was a Christian woman, or a believer. I don't know if she was a Christian, but I know she was a believer. But I think she just shut everything off when this heartbreak happened with Kyle. Neena was due to get married to Kyle Hassey, far right. We talked about him right here. He has not yet commented. Of course he hasn't, because he knows he's the main force for the final straw for her. He's the douchebag that pushed her to this point. But there she is with him, a married man. I can't believe it. Oh gosh. Married at the time. So, what's going on? I don't know what this is. Okay. Okay. Neena was one of the faces of Wake Up Wisconsin, the morning show on WOW Channel 9, an ABC affiliate in central Wisconsin. She had moved there from her native Florida in pursuit of a career in journalism after turning down offers to play professional basketball. Wow. So the details I found out later was that she actually was the coach. She was the captain on her basketball team in college. And she was really good. She, like I said, she led her team to the championship, to winning. And she had offers to play professional basketball, guys, and she turned it down. Isn't that crazy? She turned it down because her dream she wanted to be a news anchor, a sports analyst, and for ESPN. So that's crazy that she actually had offers to play pro basketball. Wow. And she just said, nope, I'm cool. In high school and at college, she was an athletic star. Neena's best friend, Allie Peters, told Daily Mail that while she knew Neena had struggled with mental health issues in the past, she seemed to have overcome many of her demons. But no, she put on a facade. She put on a mask to pretend like she had. But deep down, she still was battling through the loss of Jordan. She never got over that. And she tried to cope with it through, volunteering and working and burying herself in work. And then she comes across this other guy who just amplifies her already mental health issues that she was dealing with. Neena had also come to terms with the tragedy of losing her first love, her high school boyfriend, Jordan Harris, who died of brain cancer when they were both 18 in 2013. I don't think she ever really got over it, because she did a recent interview. There was a recent interview out there where she's talking about the loss of Jordan and she's crying and everything like that. So I don't think she really, really fully got over it. She may have told herself that, but no, she didn't. And there is a photo of her with Jordan. There he is. It's so sad. And they're putting a little heart shape there with their hands together. It's so sweet. Teenage tragedy. Neena's high school boyfriend, Jordan Harris, died in 2013 when they were both 18. They just were baby adults beginning their life, and he died. Sad. After battling brain cancer, friends said she always missed him, but had come to terms with his death. So see, she had always missed him. So she didn't fully get over it. I think there was times that she felt okay and she kind of was able to trug along, but then there would be things that would come up and then she would have these breakdowns. But I mean, it just seemed like she went through trauma after trauma after trauma and didn't really fully allow herself to get the treatment that she needed. She probably needed to get some form of medication, but I don't think she really was receptive to the treatment that she was getting. She even just stopped going. She stopped getting the treatment, period, because her mom said she had already been getting mental health treatment. And then there was a point where she just stopped, even though she had all the resources available to her. So Neena in 2016, this is the interview I was talking about. I mean, it was a couple years ago, but still. Neena in 2016 interview talking about her romance with Jordan. She was a college basketball star. So you can see her crying and breaking down here as she's talking about Jordan. I just don't think she fully ever got over him. He was the love of her life. He was the driving force behind everything that she did. So, I mean, I don't think so. There was different things that came up. And then also the fact that her mother is battling stage 4 cancer could have elicited the past trauma she had gone through those many years, I believe throughout high school, of helping Jordan cope with his cancer. So that just elicited the pain again, those memories again. So she continued to raise money in his memory for cancer research charities. Now, friends and colleagues of hers are raising money via GoFundMe page to help pay for her unexpected funeral. The family has asked for $10,000 in donations to pay for the arrangements, promising to donate any additional funds to mental health charities. As of Wednesday morning, the fund sat at a little over $16,000, and she's getting a lot more than that. Neena's colleagues at WOW are also preparing a tribute segment that will air locally on Thursday, which they already did that tribute. A spokesman for Wasson Police Department previously told Daily Mail that officers were called to Neena's apartment to perform a welfare check. Wausau's police departments were dispatched to a home on Wausau's southeast side Saturday morning to check the welfare of a woman who reportedly made self-conclusion statements. It's so sad. After receiving no answer at the door, officers entered the home and they found Pacholke deceased. That's sad. Foul play was not suspected. The boyfriend wasn't even there, so it wasn't him. He already broke up with her by then. It was sad. I think that was what really pushed her to the final straw, was when he broke up with her and she found the underwear. The case remains under investigation. No additional details will be released at this time. Okay, guys, so let's get into the juicy stuff. I just wanted to give you guys those details about the fact that, number one, her mother is battling stage 4 lymphoma cancer. So that it could be a triggering force to elicit the already existing trauma that heartbreak she was going through with the Jordan issue. Even though it had been many years after he had passed, I really don't feel she fully got over that. It was just something she kind of coped with, and she was receiving mental health treatment. And I believe it was one of the reasons was because of that loss and trying to cope with that, plus all the other trauma, and then now her mother. But now there is an additional trauma with this toxic boyfriend. So beloved Wisconsin news anchor took her life after finding other woman's panties in home she bought with Fiancé, who called off their engagement 7 weeks before the wedding. My gosh. Whew. That is like so traumatic. All that stuff happened. So, number one, you could predict that a man who is willing to get into a relationship with a woman while he is still married with his 2 children is bound to cheat on the person. So when Neena got in a relationship with him, he was already still in the marriage. Now he does like what a lot of these guys do, is say, oh, I'm in the verge of getting a divorce. But a lot of times, they're still married. If you're still married, you're still in a covenant. It doesn't matter. And so he didn't even respect her. Guys, wait till you hear the stuff he did. Let's just read it. Neena, 27, took her life last Saturday in Wausau, Wisconsin home, and fiancé Kyle had bought together in July. So they bought a house together. They did a lot of huge things. That could be really emotionally tormenting to someone like Neena, who is battling mental health issues already, guys, already getting treatment. And she purchases, buying a house with someone is huge. It's huge. You got to take out a mortgage. You got all the things involved with buying this house. And you're planning your future with this man. And he turns around and breaks up with you and cheats on you. Oh my God. And he was just an alcoholic. Man, he called off their wedding less than 2 months before they were due to tie the knot. Douchebag. And he just proposed to her, guys, back in May. So that doesn't make sense. Daily Mail can reveal the split came after a tumultuous 2-year romance filled with fights, heavy drinking, and rumors of affairs. This man was just a career cheater. Not only did he cheat on his first wife, or who knows if he had more wives than that before that, but not only did he cheat on his existing wife at the time, he cheated on Neena and had multiple affairs because they have it plural there. And he was an alcoholic on top of that. And he was a mean drunk, because we're going to go into a police report. There was actually a police incident with him being aggressive with officers and all kinds of stuff. He's a nuisance, period. Oh my God, people even question her friends didn't like the guy. Even the guy that he got in a fight with at an event, a breast cancer event, mind you, he disrespected an event that meant the world to Neena. He knows how cancer has been a driving force that has caused her to lose the love of her life, and also is torturing her mother, basically oppressing her mother right now with stage 4 lymphoma. So it's like he should know that this cancer event is huge for her, but he disrespects her valued event, something that means the world to her, and causes this scene as a mean drunk and gets drunk at the event. Oh my God, guys, he's awful, and gets arrested, by the way. Neena even told one friend she returned to the house she shared with fiance Kyle Hassey and found an unfamiliar pair of panties, friends say. I think after that, she was done. She was done. She gave it all up after that. Because all these things had just led up all the years, and she just lost all hope. And the sad thing is, she chose the 27th of August to symbolize the finalization of her life because she is 27. She planned this whole thing out. It's so sad how the enemy took her and tormented her with all of this heartbreak and caused her to end it all. It's so sad. They were always arguing. This was a tumultuous relationship. They argued all the time. It seemed like Neena was more in love with Kyle than he was with her. He wasn't even into her. And he was 11 years her senior. So he probably thought of her, this ditzy, girl that he can walk over, manipulate, cheat on, and she wouldn't know anything because she's young. That's kind of like what they do. Like a lot of these older men, they target younger women like her because they think that they're vulnerable, that they're dumb, that they can walk over them, that they can manipulate them, and basically be toxic, and the women will put up with it. He wasn't even into her. She was into him, but he wasn't into her. And you'll find out more that what he did, he wasn't even attracted to her. He was looking at other women that had more the body structure that he wanted, and he felt like Neena didn't have it. It's disgusting. Bubbly newscaster Neena Pacholke killed herself after her fiance broke up with her just 7 weeks before they were due to marry. The split came after a tumultuous 2-year romance filled with fights, heavy drinking, and rumors of affairs. Neena even told one friend she returned to the house and shared with fiance because she returned to the house. They said she returned to the house because he kicked her out the house, basically. He kicked her out. She had to move all her stuff out. And so she probably came there to pick up some final things from the house. And while she was there, she found someone else's underwear. And that was like what drove her over there. She was done. She was done. So she returned back to the house that she shared with Kyle, the fiance, found an unfamiliar pair of panties there. And there had already been rumors about him cheating over the last 2 years, while, of course, he was already cheating on his wife in the first place. So he's just a serial cheater. He just cheats. He just can't be faithful, period. Pacholke found dead on Saturday in the $390,000 home she and Hassey had just bought in Wassee, Wisconsin. See, and then the second thing she did is she purposely ended her life in the very house that they bought together because she wanted him to feel the magnitude of pain and regret and guilt by basically seeing her there. Her hope was that he was going to find her, actually, but he didn't find her. But she wanted to end her life in that house as kind of like her last message to him in a traumatic way, that he would not find peace in that house because that's where she ended her life. It's just sad, guys. It's sad. It's so sad. And the thing is also, you guys, she covered a story about a self-conclusion on the news station. So that also, in my opinion, I believe it gave her the idea of doing it also because she saw someone else do it. That's what I'm saying. We talked about this in part one, was that this job at the news station was a toxic job. Even though she claimed to have liked it, there were so many stories that she had to cover that was traumatic for her. And then she had to hear about people who had battled mental health issues and ended their life. And that also was a driving force to motivate her to do the same thing, to deal with her issues in that manner instead of trying to, address it in a healthy way of getting the counseling, having the social support, fighting through the situation, getting that prayer and consultation with God. She threw all that stuff away, got an idea from watching this show and watching, be covering this trauma of someone killing themselves, taking their life, and also, seeing all the things that this horrific guy had done to her. And it was what pushed her over and she gave up the fight. It's sad. And she had this long history, many years of battling mental health problems. It's sad, guys. This story is so sad, that the trauma this girl had gone through. And she had this smile on her face like everything was okay when it wasn't. It's so sad. Police confirmed on Friday that she had ended her life. This is her. So see, you can see that smile, guys, and you cannot be fooled by a smile. Behind that smile was a lot of pain. A lot of pain and heartbreak. This girl went through a lot of heartbreak after heartbreak. Heartbreak from losing the first love of her life from a deadly cancer. Then a second heartbreak by seeing her mother suffer from stage 4 lymphoma, because that was a heartbreaking thing for her, which again brought up memories of the trauma she dealt with Jordan. Then a third heartbreak with this tumultuous relationship with this womanizer. This man that was a womanizer who basically was that last final straw that basically pushed her over the edge. That was the last final thing that was too much for her. It's so sad, you guys. This story is just so sad. She's going to be honored in celebration of life at her church in Wisconsin on Sunday. And this is her. We already seen her. She's so beautiful, but that happiness we already know is not real. Pacholke, who was a morning anchor on local ABC affiliate, took her own life. Wait, everybody talks about that. So here's the guy. We already seen this. They're giving us the same stuff again. We got to get to the juicy stuff. Hold on. So here's the house. Look, this is the house where she was. This is the house that she bought with the womanizer. I'm just calling him womanizer. This guy's a douche. Kyle. She was found in this house Saturday in the $390,000 home. Wow. And that her and Hassie had just bought in Wassee, Wisconsin a month earlier. That is sad. She did this all to send a message to him. She chose the location, this particular location, because she moved her stuff out. She wasn't even living there anymore because they had broken up. But she came back there to that house to send a message to him. That's where she found the underwear of the other woman. And that was the area where she had her final heartbreak. And that's why she ended it there. And she chose particularly August 27th. She chose that day, 27/27. Think about Chesley Chris, 30/30, January 30. August, this young lady, August 27th, age 27. They particularly choose symbolic meanings as a way to show a finalization of their life. It's very sad. It's so sad. Suicide is one of the most painful ways to hear that someone ends their life. It's so painful. A worried friend called 911 and asked police to do a welfare check, but by the time they got there, it was too late. Pacholke, she was 27 years old. Hassie was 38 with his womanizing self. He chose this girl because she was young, and he thought, a lot of these older guys do this. They choose young women because they think they're young and dumb, that they can just manipulate them. And he's a womanizer, and that's a lot of womanizers target young women like that. They think that they're vulnerable and naive. And another thing, guys, they look for women that are wounded already. So he already knew that Pacholke was suffering a trauma, that she was battling mental health problems, because she told him. And she told him about her trauma and her loss with Jordan. And everybody knew that because she shared it on an interview. So that was already public anyway. But he knew that she was already um, a broken individual, emotionally broken down. And so he targeted her because this guy appears to me to be already one of those toxic kind of narcissist type men already that just walks over different women, doesn't value his relationships, doesn't value covenant. Just a serial cheater, basically. He just doesn't respect the women that he's with. He doesn't have any values. Apparently, this is what I'm seeing from hearing about this man. And none of her friends even like this guy. But I wonder if even her mother or parents liked him. I wonder if they supported the marriage. That's another question we need to ask, because during the 2 years, he was an alcoholic. They got always fought all the time. They were always yelling and arguing. And there was rumors of him cheating throughout the relationship while he was married. So I don't know if the parents were even on board. But the thing is, guys, he charmed this young girl because of her age, because of her vulnerability, of her being broken already, a broken person. You know, he knew that she didn't have much relationships dating. She had just, she'd just been trying to get over, she's been trying to get over the Jordan thing. And so he targeted her because he knew she was vulnerable. That is sad, you guys. And after he got what he wanted, which was, he just walked all over her. And you know what he said? This little douche said to a friend. He told his friends the only benefit he gets from her is that she makes $47,000 a year, so she gives him a tax break. That's what he told one of his friends. And that he wasn't really attracted to her physically. He wished that she looked like another woman that he showed a picture of to his friends. He showed a picture of a woman that had, certain curvature. And he was like, man, I wish, Neena looked like this, but the only benefit I get out of being with her is a tax break. I'm like, what? What a complete douche. Who says stuff like that? Oh my gosh. I mean, I wish Neena would have just saw her worth and ended it with this douche. But she was young, guys, and I think she was so, again, she was trying to hold on to this relationship because she was afraid of losing it like she lost Jordan. That trauma of losing that first love made her cling to this toxic relationship even more, holding on to something she knew wasn't right because she was afraid of losing this relationship like she lost Jordan. See, it's like I said, that's why we had to cover all that in part one, because it all goes together. It wasn't just this final thing. People think if we just started with this part of it, which this just came out yesterday, but if we would have just started with this, oh, hey, she had a tumultuous relationship with the boyfriend, you guys would have missed all the background history, which was very important to what led up to her final decision. All of the factors come into play. All right. So, again, she's 27, he's 38. That's already a red flag. They had closed on a house on July 27th, exactly 1 month before she took her life. See that number 27? That number 27 is significant. You guys, a lot of people who were watching my channel when I covered the Chesley Chris story, they didn't want to believe me when I was saying that Chesley chose January 30th because she's 30. It was a symbolic meaning of her end of her life. And you can see here, there's a pattern with these self-conclusions. This is not a coincidence. They don't just randomly choose days. No, they particularly choose these days for a reason. There's something about the age thing that they seem to associate with the finalization of their life. And so they pick these dates that mirror their age as a symbolic conclusion. To say she died on the 27th and she was 27. They want that. It's so pivotal to them. It's very sad, but they choose these particular numbers for a particular reason. When contacted by Daily Mail, Hassie, that's the toxic guy, immediately hung up. He did not answer follow-up calls or respond to text messages. We know why, because he doesn't want to answer to what pain and trauma he caused Neena. He knows he's wrong. He knows he's a complete douche. And so he's not going to say anything, basically. Pacholke's friend says she always appeared more invested in her relationship with the father of two than he was. And that's That is not surprising. You know why? Because his heart was in two different places. He was with his heart was divided between his marriage and his two children and her. So how could he be fully invested in a relationship with Neena when he's in multiple relationships and in a full-fledged marriage? So that's why she was already open and ready for a relationship. She was single. He was the only center of her life. On the other hand, he had a whole marriage. His attention was divided. He had two children. So there was no way he could have given her the full love that she deserved. And so someone who's dealing with mental health, sometimes because they're dealing with a history of mental health, their self-esteem is already compromised. And so they are looking for love in all the wrong places. And she had this empty void of love when she lost Jordan. And so she was so susceptible to allowing in this toxic individual into her life because she was very vulnerable and also had, I believe, a challenged self-esteem because of all the broken trauma that she had dealt with all the years before, back in high school and leading up to this final trauma. The thing is, it's so sad, guys. Pacholke's friend says she always appeared more invested. Like we said, they were always arguing. That was already a red flag. She should have ended it right then and there. If you can't get along with the person you're trying to marry, that's a red flag. There's no way the marriage is going to last, because what you're dealing with in your relationship before marriage will be magnified in the marriage. So if you're arguing all the time, what do you think is going to be in that marriage? It's going to be double that. So, I mean, you can't get any higher than arguing all the time. I mean, I guess it could lead to physical abuse at that point, or mental abuse past the arguments. But whatever happens in the relationship before the marriage just gets amplified. So, I mean, that was a red flag. But again, guys, she was young. She was vulnerable. She had been experiencing mental health crises throughout her adulthood because of the loss of and the witnessing of what happened to Jordan and maybe other traumas that she had throughout her life. But I think really the primary one was the Jordan thing. She really needed the counseling for that. And she was in therapy and at one point and then kind of stopped going, you guys. It's so sad. But I think that was a huge thing. But the thing is, because she was so already challenged in her mental health, she was already depressed. She was young and very vulnerable and looking to be loved. She wanted to be loved. And so she was willing to just take whatever anybody gave her. And he gave her some attention. He probably charmed her like a lot of narcissists do. They love bomb the women. They give them all this attention, tell them how beautiful they are and make them feel like the queen of the world. And they put them on these pedestals. And she was thirsty for that. She was hungry for love because she was missing Jordan. And for many years, she shut off the idea of love because he was the center of her life. We talked about how she wrote in her blog, the part one of the video that we talked about, was that he was the driving force behind everything that she had done. So she, many years, kind of went throughout life afraid of giving her heart open. And then eventually she became hungry for love. And to the point where she blindly went into this relationship with a married man. That's what I'm saying. He chose her. He targeted her. Men like this target women that are, more susceptible to the abuse like this because they are, they're not really thinking rationally. She was already battling. He probably talked to her and learned all these things about her and was like, this is the girl I want, because he knew he could manipulate her. And he did a good job because she became so invested in him, and he wasn't, because of course his heart was divided with the other women, and the fact that he's married and trying to battle a divorce. He couldn't give her the love she deserved. There's no way. This is crazy, guys. So they were always arguing, and it seemed like Neena was more in love with Kyle than he was with her. Neena also became suspicious that Kyle, who worked as a commercial sales manager at an Imperial Industries, may have hooked up with a former lover. Oh my gosh. So he was over here Oh God, this sounds like a narcissist because a lot of these narcissists, they have all these lovers, right? These women, and then okay, they'll be with one woman, love bomb her, then they get tired of her, so they discard her. But basically, what they do is they put her on a imaginary shelf, right? They put her on an imaginary shelf, and then they go on to the next victim. They love bomb that girl, get with her, whatever, and then they discard her, and they'll go back to the former lover, and then they'll deal with her again, and then they'll just discard her again and go to another lover. You know what I mean? So they'll have all these different lovers, and then they eventually discard them, but they put them on this imaginary shelf, and they pull them off the shelf just to be with them for a little bit, get whatever gratification they need out of them, and then they just put them back on the shelf. And they keep them on these imaginary shelves indefinitely. They never really stop talking to these women. They just keep, with the women or the men, it could be either way, narcissists or both genders. But if the men or women who are the victims allow these people to keep returning, then the narcissist will keep returning back to the former lovers. So the way she's describing this, that he probably hooked up with a former lover, to me is really making me think this guy's possibly a narcissist, possibly. One friend said that just a few weeks ago, Kyle showed a friend a nude picture that a former mistress had sent him. What? Okay, let's read this again, guys. I'm telling you, this is getting juicy. Whew. Pray for me, y'all. Pray for me, because I'm getting just, this guy. One friend said that just a few weeks ago, Kyle showed a friend a nude picture that a former mistress, this is a narcissist, a former mistress had sent him. So he is saved, who's been collecting all these photos of his former mistress, and he shows one nude picture to his friend, and then he says, look at her boobs in ASS. I wish Neena's body looked like that. Wow. So these words, because they got back to Neena heard about this. So her self-esteem, you guys, was so broken down. Even though you and I, we see Neena and we're like, wow, she's absolutely stunning. She thought she was unattractive. She felt unattractive because when you love someone, their words have more weight than just a random person or a friend. Even a friend can say you're beautiful. The friend's words will not matter to you over your lover, because it's something about when you love your man or woman, and when they say things, their words have power. They have control over your heart. That's why you have to be very careful, you guys, who you give your heart to. The word of God says to guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. He puts these scriptures in the Bible for a particular reason, because they will help you navigate life. And it is very imperative that you guard your heart, because it is the wellspring of life. And if you give your heart to the wrong person, they can drive you to do the very tragedy that Neena did, because she gave her heart to the wrong person. And the scriptures say it is the wellspring of life. That's life or death, who you give your heart to. And this man drove her to this final ending because of how horrible he was. Oh, God, let's read this again, guys, one more time before we move on, because this is crazy. One friend said that just a few weeks ago, Kyle showed a friend a nude picture that a former mistress had sent him. Oh my God. He told the friend, look at her boobs and ASS. I wish Neena's body looked like that. And Neena heard this, you guys. And so she started feeling low self-esteem about her body. She didn't feel good about herself. She would go to work with all these smiles and felt so unattractive. And these older men do that to these young, vulnerable women. It's so sad. They break them down and make them feel so low, and they don't feel any worthiness of who they are because of men like this. Just sick. What a complete monster. And you know the sad thing about this, guys, is he ends up winning at the end. This guy gets to move on with his life while Neena never gets to get married. She will never be able to have children. She will never be able to have a future because she allowed this toxic man into her life and she allowed it to consume her. So he wins. Now he gets to move on and he gets to get married again and be able to victimize many women down the line, and he will forget all about her. To tell you the truth, he will, because he's a narcissist, and narcissists just don't care. They don't. They don't care. They don't have feelings. They don't have emotions. And this guy comes off to me as a person that doesn't have emotions. So he moves on with his life and has this long life while this poor girl's life is over because of the horrible toxicity that he caused her. That's why I would say we need to fight with the word of God. We need to put God first and allow him to help us overcome things like this, and to not to allow people like this to control our destiny, control our life, end our life, because they end up winning in the end and we lose. We lose out on the opportunity to live, to change our future, to find hope, to find future love, to find future opportunities, because we give the keys to our heart to these toxic individuals who could care less about us. So one of the key things we can learn from this is to guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Be very careful about the people you give your heart to. Very, very careful. Even when you think you can trust them, sometimes you never know. There's people that have courted guys or been in a relationship with women or whatever for many years, and then they get married and all of a sudden that person changes. So you really have to guard yourself until you truly have studied that person, you've tested their fruits, and you have seen that they are trustworthy. And even then, only person I would truly, truly, truly give my heart to is God. And you can give your heart to a guy or a woman eventually, but I would say don't give it completely to that person. You always need to keep some part of it to yourself and give that to God. God should have the full control, full trust. But when it comes to man or woman, I wouldn't fully give the full heart, because you just never know. You can't, because you put so much expectation in man and woman, and they're just not perfect. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. So anybody's bound to cause some form of disappointment, because we are human beings. So I wouldn't give my full heart to anyone, to be honest. I would give, my heart somewhat, but I would still hold back some of it. It's because the word of God says, guard your heart, first the wellspring of life. So if you give your full heart to somebody and they crush it, that could be tormenting to you for many years to come. Just be very careful about that. Be very prayerful. So he said, and here's this thing. This is what he said too. He said, I don't even want to go home to Neena. That's what Kyle said, the boyfriend, the fiance. I don't even want to go home to Neena, he added. The only thing I get from her is a tax break because she only makes $47,000 a year. Wow. What a douche. The nerve of him to say that about a woman he proposed to. Sir, you're already on the verge of getting a divorce. And now you propose to a woman after your divorce actually finally finalized, and you are talking about how she's basically not even the woman you want. And you're only with her for the fact that she doesn't make a lot of money. This is sick. Why are you getting married again? You're just setting yourself up for another divorce. This is a narcissist, because that's what these narcissists do. They marry and they date, and they're a serial dater and cheater. They just keep jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship until they get bored and they discard, and then they keep the person there on an invisible shelf until they're ready to pull them back off the shelf to play with them again like a toy, and then they get bored with that toy again and they put it back on the shelf, go to the next person. That's all they do. That's what he sounds like. And you got to be careful with narcissists like this, because they do push people over the edge like this, and it's not right. It's not right. We should not give anyone the keys to do that. We need to fight with the power of God, and we should not give our heart to man to the point where they control and become all-consuming to us. But at the same time, It is wrong for people like that to go into the world and do that. But the enemy, guys, everything goes back to the spiritual forces related to this. It's all spiritual because God says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, all the spirits, and all that stuff, guys. But we wrestle against spirits. That's what we wrestle against. So it's the enemy who goes into these people. He used this man because he knew all the pointing parts to prick at Neena, because he saw all the things and the trauma she had gone through. He saw the trauma she went through in high school as she saw and had to witness the love of her life wither away and suffer. He saw the trauma that she went through when she had to move away from home. He saw the trauma that she had dealt with, seeing her mother battle stage 4 lymphoma and all those memories and the horrific trauma of the memories she had of witnessing her boyfriend die of it. He saw all the times that she battled mental health crisis throughout her life. And so he chose this particular man to target her and to do the very things that would push her to this point. Because again, like I told you guys in the first video, the enemy's goal is to lead us down this path. And he uses these things to torture us. That's why the way to fight it is through God and through strength. But the thing is, we have to make the decision to do it. It's a choice. It is a decision at the end of the day. We have to choose to want to live. And then use the tools that we have in Christ to fight the enemy. And the thing with Neena was that she didn't want to fight. She gave up. It was sad she gave up. It's so sad. And all these different factors played a role. Even the coverage of that self-conclusion story played a role as well. All of it added up to this. So Neena and Kyle, they met at I thought they met at a wedding, guys. Forgive me, I said that earlier in the video, but it's actually a funeral. That's kind of ironic that they met at a funeral. Oh my gosh, they met at a funeral. And now he's caused a funeral because of his trauma to Neena. Wow. Wow. Neena and Kyle met at a funeral in 2020 when he was still married. Dang. He got divorced last year. Oh, I thought he got divorced this year, guys. Sorry. He got divorced last year. I don't know why I keep thinking he got divorced. Oh, I'm thinking he got divorced last year because he proposed to her this year in May. Sorry. But anyway, this is crazy, guys. He met her at a funeral, right? 2020. And he now is the very cause of her funeral. Isn't that ironic? This is crazy. Man. Poor Neena. Pacholke was remembered fondly by her colleagues as a beautiful person and incredible friend this week. As it was revealed, she experienced a tragic heartbreak in her past, and we talked about that before. In July, police were called. Let's talk about this, guys, because this is a lot more to get into, okay? In July, just this year, guys, police were called to a breast cancer awareness fundraiser because breast cancer fundraisers are very near and dear to Neena because not only did she lose the love of her life from cancer, but her mother is battling lymphoma, stage 4. And so she does these charity events because they really are special to her as a way to channel or kind of cope through the losses that she, dealt with Jordan and the struggles that she sees her mother go through battling cancer. So in July, she does this event. She has her boyfriend who's supposed to be supporting her in this, or fiance, at the time. They were engaged. The police were called to this breast cancer awareness fundraiser that the couple were attending at the Wausau County Club after Kyle got drunk and belligerent. So he gets drunk, you guys, at a breast cancer fundraiser. I'm done. He gets drunk at the breast cancer fundraiser, causes a scene, and here is the police report. Let's read this police report because this police report, you guys, is crazy. Okay? So this was a disorderly conduct. The officer that came was J. Hancock. This was on June 13th, 2022. There was a breast cancer awareness fundraiser taking place at Wausau Country Club, located at 208 Country Club Road in the city of Schofield. Carrie Suthers, Kyle Hossey, and Neena Pacholke were attending the event, along with identified witnesses Craig and Chesley. There was disorderly conduct there, and basically under their penal code, that means disorderly conduct is whoever in public or private place engages in violent, abusive, indecent, profane, boisterous, unreasonable, loud, or otherwise disorderly conduct under circumstances in which the conduct tends to cause or provoke a disturbance is guilty of a Class B misdemeanor. So the incident was that on January 13th at approximately 8:02 p.m., the officer responded to Wausau Country Club, located at 208 Country Club in the city of Schofield, for a disturbance in progress. Officer English also responded to the incident. While en route to the incident, dispatch advised that Corey Suthers had called 911 and reported a man, later identified as Kyle, was threatening him and yelling profanities at him inside the bar area of the country club. And the reason why he was doing this, guys, is because Kyle basically paid $2,000 for the fundraiser, for the breast cancer fundraiser. And basically it was like a drawing. So people were given baskets, or they draw the name out and you get a basket based on your donation. Well, Kyle didn't like the stuff in the basket, so he wanted his money back. He was trying to sell the basket to other people, and the other guy, Corey, was telling him he couldn't do that. And so Kyle had a little fit and was trying to be violent with Corey and try to fight him and was cursing at him and stuff. It was terrible. It was terrible, guys. Upon my arrival, Officer English was already on scene speaking with Suthers outside of the front doors. As Jay approached Suthers, it was very apparent to me that he was highly intoxicated. He gave a brief account of what occurred with Hossey. During the ongoing argument between the two, Hossey called Suthers a cuss word that they blurred out and made several other profanity-laced insults. Wow, this guy was trash. After speaking with Suthers, Officer English contacted Neena in front of the main doors. Neena was very coherent, and she did not appear to be intoxicated at all, so she was sober at the time. Neena pointed at Suthers and stated he had come up to her and inches from her face and said a cuss word to her. As Neena was saying this, Kyle exited the building and began quickly walking towards where we were all attending. Officer English immediately gave Kyle verbal commands to stop and to go back inside the business. Kyle refused to comply with the officer's clear demands, and Kyle then became extremely loud, belligerent, and profane in his demeanor and interaction with the officer. Even though officer gave Kyle clear and direct commands advising him to return to the business, that he was in fact detained pending further investigation into the incident, Kyle was obstinate in his refusal to comply and became more verbally profane and boisterous. Wow. At this point, it was very obvious to me that Kyle was extremely intoxicated. It has been my experience that someone in the state of intoxication that I believe Hossey to be, along with his open disregard for law enforcement and public indecency, can very quickly become violent towards law enforcement and citizens involved in the same incident. In an attempt to de-escalate Kyle, I separated him from the group of people standing in front of the country club. Well, he was just, look how violent and disrespectful he was to the officers. And it's sad because, I mean, if I was Nina, if I seen how he disrespected authority, I couldn't be with a guy like that. A guy that can't respect the law, can't respect law enforcement, can't respect others, he's not going to respect me, or he's not going to respect anyone. So it's like, you wouldn't want to be in a relationship with someone like that. So the officer says, once I had Kyle separated, I attempted to engage him in conversation in regards to the incident. My attempts were ultimately in vain, as Kyle would not fully listen or answer any questions. His comments in regards to the incident and Southers seemed to me illogical and driven by his high level of intoxication and emotions. Wow, so he tends to have anger issues, very aggressive. Um, and if you see him having anger issues like this, imagine how he was with Nina behind closed doors. He probably was very aggressive and yelling at her. That's crazy. And she was going to still marry this guy. Dang. She was so blinded by love. And I think she really was trying to hold on to this guy because, like I said, she was afraid of losing a second love like she lost Jordan. So she just held on to this guy even though he was toxic. While I was dealing with Kyle, Officer English was speaking with Southers and several witnesses, including Craig, Chesley. After a thorough investigation into the entire incident, it was determined that the following occurred. During the fundraising activities, Kyle bid on and won a prize basket. After winning the basket, Kyle did not want to keep it and attempted to sell it to Southers. When Southers declined to buy the prize basket, Kyle called Southers a name, basically, and made derogatory remarks in regards to Southers' wealth coming from Southers' father. So he was like saying, you don't even have money. Your wealth comes from your dad. You're a loser, basically. These profanity-laced abusive remarks were made in an unreasonably loud manner and in such a way that the majority of the patrons at the bar demanded that Kyle leave. This fact was corroborated by Kyle himself when he was speaking with me earlier. He told me the whole bar was mad at him. Wow, this is such a red flag. If you could see everybody in a bar not liking the person you're with, that's a huge red flag that you should not be with him. The whole bar was mad at him, guys. Everybody was trying to kick him out and told him to leave. Wow. Kyle's verbal insults at Southers provoked Southers to return profanity, insults, and derogatory comments at Kyle. As this was ongoing, Nina stepped in between the two and attempted to stop the escalating verbal exchange. When she did this, she was facing Southers. According to Nina, Southers told her to go and he was cussing at her. While speaking with Southers later on, he told me that he told Nina to, and he basically was cussing at her. Why are you even with him? So he asked Nina, why are you even with Kyle? Like, why are you with this douchebag? Like, he's a complete jerk. So even all these people are like totally against Nina being with this guy. And she's the only one that doesn't see that he's not good for her. Because again, she's vulnerable and battling mental health problems already. And probably was battling self-esteem issues at the time also. When speaking with Nina, she said she felt it was not right for Southers to speak to her like that. She was offended and wants to assist in prosecution of Southers for disorderly conduct. Due to the totality of the circumstances of the incident, as well as Kyle's outspoken dislike of Officer English and his proven disregard for lawful police commands, I determined in the interest of public safety, neither Kyle nor Southers would be placed under arrest? What? For disorderly conduct? I explained all parties involved in the case would be taken and referred to the... I guess he did arrest, but he didn't write the proper information because he did. He said he explained that all parties involved in the case would be taken to the police station. So... or the district attorney's office for review and determine who, if anyone, would be charged in regards for this incident. Okay, guys. So I see what happened. So they didn't end up arresting him, but they ended up filing the police report and sent it over to the district attorney's office and allowed the district attorney's office to determine whether they would file charges or not. That's what they did. They were like, we're not gonna arrest these guys, but we're just gonna send the report over to the district attorney's office to see if they would want to prosecute them or not. Okay, at 9:36, I contacted Lacey on the on-call district attorney's office advised her of the incident. And he advised her, he basically called up the district attorney that night and was like, hey, this is what happened at this bar. Do you want to prosecute? Basically. At approximately 12:30 a.m., man, she woke up in the morning for this case. I requested and received a media file copy of the original 911 call placed by Southers. I let her download the 911 call to the police department. During this incident, I had my department issued body-worn camera, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The police report into the country club incident said neither Hassie nor Corey Southers were arrested, but the case was referred to the district attorney's office. And that's what I just said. So it looks like they weren't arrested, but their case may be prosecuted. This is a sad case, guys. The couple had been due to marry on October 12th at the Tony Barcelo Maya Palace, all-inclusive resort in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, where rooms start at $550 per night. Dang, they were going to pay bank. But we know that Kyle was very affluent. He was making a lot of money. Neena, on the other hand, was only making $47,000 a year, so she was not really making much. So we already know who was going to be funding this wedding, which is weird because Kyle wasn't even happy with Neena, nor was he. I mean, he was even finally just barely got a divorce last year. It's just, this was a mess. The couple who met at the funeral in November 2020, when he was still married, okay? She met him when he was married, had originally planned a large wedding in Wausau for next summer, but decided to bring the date forward. He popped the question on May 9th. So he just popped the question a couple of months ago in May, guys. That's crazy. And then he ended it back in the 27th of July, I believe. Or recently, probably. Pacholke decided to give up her apartment in downtown Wausau. So she gave up her apartment, she gave up her stability, guys, and she moved into Kyle's rental house earlier this year. That's a big no-no. You don't want to move into your spouse's or house before you get married because you just never know what can happen. Just like this situation, if you have problems, they'll just kick you out, and then now you're stuck in the street. You just gotta be careful with that too. She rented a U-Haul. Okay, so she did that, but they had a big fight earlier July. Okay, so she moved into his rental house earlier the year. Then they had this big fight in July, and he told her he was kicking her out. See what I just said? He ends up kicking her out of the rental house after she basically ended her lease at her stability at her apartment where she was stable at to live with him. He turns around and kicks her out. That's just malicious. It's crazy. She rented a U-Haul truck on July 8th and moved all of her belongings to a friend's house. She stayed at a local hotel for 3 days before they reconciled. So after he kicks her out, she goes through all the work. She goes through all the work, you guys. She pays all these expenses to get a U-Haul. You see how toxic this relationship was? This cost her money, peace of mind, work, labor, because she had to pay for a U-Haul. She had to box up her stuff. She had to get all that stuff moved out. Then she had to pay for a hotel for 3 nights. Then she had to move all her stuff at her friend's house, not having any stability. She lost all her stability over this man and turned around and got back with him after all that happened. That is extremely toxic, and you can see how taxing it was emotionally on her and physically. And again, this woman was so broken because of the whole trauma she dealt with before she met Kyle with, her past, as we talked about, that she was more susceptible to fall prey to someone like Kyle. So she was so blinded by everything. And because she had not grown past her teen years, Because, you know, when people face trauma, especially when they face it prematurely as a young person, they never grow past that age. It's like they stay frozen at that age. So if it's like mentally, she was frozen at the age of 18 years old when Jordan died. So in her young mind, she thought that the way Kyle was treating her was love. It's just like she moved out all her stuff. He kicked her out. That was awful. That should have been the day she should have said it's over for good. Like, there's no way I'm going back. She ended up going back with him. They get back together after she was in a hotel for 3 days. All this emotional stress on this poor girl's body, on her mind. She was so physically drained, guys. Pacholke, who grew up in Tampa and was a star basketball player at the university, was a popular figure in her adopted hometown. But her fiance is not so admired. A friend said, I never liked him. She said, I never liked him, one friend told dailymail.com. He was always the drunkest one at the bar. When your friend does not like someone you're dating, that's a huge red flag. They see something in that person that you should also see that they don't like, and you should run if you have a friend telling you something like that. So he was always the drunkest one at the bar, said another person. He made good money and wasn't afraid to let everyone else know it. So he was very cocky, very arrogant type person, narcissist, thought he was just God's gift to mankind because he made all this money and he allowed this money to get to his head, and he exploited it by being a womanizer and abusive to Neena and probably even to his ex-wife. He probably was a horrible husband too. Well, we already know he was because he was dating out of the marriage also. Police were called in July to a breast cancer awareness fundraiser that we talked about that the couple was attending after Wausau got drunk and belligerent. He had won a basket as a prize and didn't want it and tried to sell it to a country club stockholder, Corey Suthers. When Suthers said no, Corey called him a piece of shit. He wanted his $2,000 back that he had spent on a charity basket when he didn't get it, and he started to throw out profanity and insults to me and everyone else inside the club. That's what Suthers told Daily. So the guy that got in the fight with Kyle ends up talking to Daily Mail about the trauma after Neena died. According to the police report on the incident, Kyle made derogatory remarks about Suthers' wealth coming from his father that we talked about earlier. Neena and her fiance were due to be married 6 weeks from now, and here is the itinerary here of the wedding, the potential wedding. It was going to be at the Barcelo Maya Palace, and that was going to be October 12th at 5 p.m. And they had all the RSVP stuff, and this was the name. You could see them, then Kyle and Neena and everything there. So sad. Oh, man. The two originally planned a large wedding in Wausau for next summer, but decided to bring the date forward. Hasi proposed. Popped the question May 9th. I wonder why they decided to bring the date forward. What was the rush? He was just now ending a whole marriage. He hadn't even been divorced for 2 years, and they're already ready to hurry up and get married. I just thought there was no need to get married that fast. The couple had been due to marry October 12th at the Tony Barcelo Maya Palace, all-inclusive resort in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, where rooms are, we talked about that already, $550 per night. These profanity-laden abusive remarks were made in an unreasonable loud manner and in such a way that the majority of the patrons at the bar demanded that Kyle leave. Kyle's verbal insults to Suthers provoked Suthers to return profanity back at him. As this is happening, that's when Neena stepped in between the two. And we kind of already talked about all this. Oh, look, let's talk about this. Instead, he told them he would be referring the case to the district attorney's office. But look, Kyle was also arrested for a DUI for driving under the influence May 7th of last year, 2021. His blood alcohol level was 0.164. So you can see a pattern with this man. This man was a complete alcoholic. He would just get drunk. He would get driving under the influence. He got charged with driving under the influence. He would get belligerent. He got arrested for, obscene, being very aggressive to officers and other people at a bar. He's a belligerent drunk, and he's very problematic. And she was just sad. This poor girl fell prey to this abusive, toxic wolf in sheep clothing. It's very sad. So his blood alcohol level when he was charged with a DUI last year, May 7th, 2021, was 0.164. That's pretty high. That's 2 times over the legal limit. I already said that, more than twice the legal limit for driving in most states. The police report says his attitude was uncooperative. Again, he keeps being uncooperative. Neena was with him at the time, and her blood alcohol level was 0.7. So Neena's not an alcoholic. She doesn't drink a lot, but he does. He gets really drunk and belligerent, and she just in the truth of really the source of happiness. I know a lot. And she just, goes along with the ride while he gets into these horrible, belligerent incidents. He's just awful, guys. I mean, man. Friends are devastated that Neena Pacholke took her life. She always had great smile on her face. But for her to commit suicide, there must have been some life-altering moment in her mind to take her own life. And that was this. It was the fact that he broke up with her. He was cheating on her. He was very abusive to her. That was the final straw, though. That was not the only reason. Like I said, all the factors that we talked about in part 1, you got to watch part 1. You got to add it with part 2. And that will give you the full picture of what finally led up to the ending tragedy. Sadly, just 2 weeks ago when Neena was anchoring the news, there was a story about a self-conclusion. What did I tell you guys in the first video? That these stories that she covered only triggered more trauma in this girl's life. Because these news anchors have to take this trauma home. And so she covers a story just 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago, that means in the next 2 weeks after that story she covered about the self-conclusion, that self-conclusion stayed on her mind. And it was an idea the enemy put in her head. After she covered the story, he was like, you know that girl you just covered, the guy you covered that did the self-conclusion? That's what you need to do. You see, Kyle doesn't love you. Jordan died. Nobody loves you. You're never going to find love. You should just end it like the girl or the guy that did on that news story that you covered 2 weeks ago. You see, that's what he does. He just was in her mind telling her these thoughts for the 2 weeks. And so she had been thinking about the self-conclusion for those 2 weeks. But hear what she said here. This is a cover-up. She says, during the break, she was overheard telling her co-anchor, I just don't understand how anyone can commit suicide. It's such a selfish act. The person doesn't realize how it affects everyone in their life. See, she probably had thought that at the time, but the problem is the enemy got into her mind, I'm telling you. There's a battlefield of the mind. So she, in her sober mind, says, how could anyone do that? But the enemy, he got into her mind and he was telling her that it was a reasonable thing to do, that she has no other hope in her life, that she should just do it. It's not a selfish act. Her parents will understand. Everybody will understand. Just do it. And it was all lies. But you could see the battle that she was dealing with, because in her sober mind, she understands that self-conclusion is a selfish act. But see, the enemy gets in and he's battling with her rationality, and he's telling her and torturing her with all this trauma, saying, you should just end it. You see how Kyle did this to you. He doesn't want you. No one will ever want you. You already lost 2 people you deeply loved. Now you're going to lose, you're possibly going to lose your mom because she's dealing with lymphoma, cancer, or whatever. You might as well just end it all. because you'll never find happiness. That's what he does. Because you would ask yourself, well, she just said 2 weeks ago that she didn't understand how anyone could do that, and then she turns around and does it. That's why, people would ask, well, why did she do it if she knew it was wrong? Well, because the enemy was the one manipulating her into doing it. He was the one in her mind, convincing her to do it. And it was those 2 weeks he was working on her, that final 2 weeks. A person that was already battling ongoing historical mental health problems. So Neena's co-anchor, Brendan here, that's Brendan Mackey, called his colleague the brightest light in the room and praised her as an incredible friend. We already seen this photo of her family earlier, so we know who those people are. Hasi told a friend that Neena left him a message. So, okay, let's read this part, guys. This part is deep, okay? Pay attention. So Kyle's the ex-fiance, he told his friend, after she had passed away, he told his friend that Neena left him a message. This was her self-conclusion message. She left him a final message and an email saying that she loves him. See, this is sad. This sounds just like, what's that story we just covered like this? It's not Chesley, it's the other girl. It's the pageant girl who, she did the same thing. She went to the mother's house and the boyfriend's house and left the letter there before she self-concluded. So she left Kyle a message and an email saying she loves him and was just hurting so bad she had to leave, basically had to leave Earth. Neena told him that she was sorry to do this to him, but the hurt was so much. She wanted him to really know what he had done. The thing is, she had already been battling mental health problems and it just became too overwhelming for her. And the enemy used that as a way to get into her mind and to manipulate her. And again, there's a story she covered about self-conclusion. So you can see all the different layers here. There's so many layers that just piled up. It's kind of like that. What's that game? I keep thinking of that game that you pile it up, and then if you pull little blocks from it, eventually it falls down. That's kind of how it was in her life of all these different traumas. Neena's parents, that's crazy though. She said she told him that she was sorry, so she told him all that stuff before she ended it. Neena's parents gave an interview to WOW, the ABC affiliate where she hosted the morning show. They confirmed she had suffered from mental health issues for years. What did I tell you guys earlier? Because people keep thinking this was the one thing that was the only one thing. No, it was she had been battling mental health issues for years. Who does this sound like? If you've been following my channel, Chesley Chris was the same way. Chesley Chris was battling mental health issues for years and even attempted to self-conclude a couple years before she did the final act. Similarly, in this case, Neena had been battling mental health issues for years. That's why I'm saying we had to go through part 1 and part 2 because all of that background, all of it encompassed with the whole horrible situation with the boyfriend is what led up to that final act. You got to watch part 1 and part 2, put it all together. You can't just watch one because it's not going to give you the full picture. Neena's mother, Lori, said she was getting treatment. I'll put it out there. She had been to the crisis center a couple of times. Sounds just like Chesley. Chesley, same thing, was getting treatment at one point. Because at one point they do want treatment. They do have hope. But then there becomes a point where they stop fighting. They stop fighting for their life. They give up the fight. And they stop getting this treatment. They stop getting the help. They stop reaching out to people than when they used to. And they shut everybody out. But let's read that again because this is very important. You got to understand this. She said that she had suffered from mental health issues for years. Okay? She was getting treatment, the mother says. I'll put it out there, she says. She had been to the crisis center a couple of times. If that was not a predictor, I don't know what was. She should not, because she had already been facing mental health issues, just like Chesley had, she should not have, her parents should not have let that girl move to Wisconsin by herself. She needed close interaction with her parents to be there with her, and she needed that support, that closeness support. And because she was so far away from her family, the people that really were there to give her that support she truly needed desperately because of her ongoing mental health crisis. Because, yeah, you can call people on the phone. People will argue that all the time, but it's not enough. It's just not enough. When someone's battling ongoing historical issues of years, and I've been telling you, the mental health issues stems back from the traumatic witnessing of the love of her life, Jordan, suffering many years of cancer. That is way too much on a young person to try to help someone get through something so traumatic like that, and someone you fall in love with at such a young, premature age. That's what caused mental health problems for Neena from the very beginning. She had been getting counseling for that. She was trying to work on it, and eventually she moved, guys. That was the thing. She moved away from her treatment, from all the family members that could help her. And so when she was all alone in this new place in Wisconsin, yeah, she meets all these new friends, but she's not getting the treatment she needs because she doesn't have that direct support that had historically been helping her, which is her parents. So what does she do? She stops getting the treatment. And then she falls prey to this abuser and this man who targeted her, who knew she was vulnerable, who knew she was susceptible to falling for his charm and his sick ways. And he basically targeted her. And because she was not getting her treatment anymore, and she, of course, totally blocked out God. I mean, she was a believer, but I think she stopped navigating and tapping into any of the resources God would have given her. And so she didn't have her treatment that she was getting. Okay. She stopped that. She was talking to her friends at one point, but then she just stopped caring. Her friends were actually helping her through it, but she just stopped caring. She just even stopped. It didn't matter, honestly, it didn't matter what the friends would have done. They would have had to literally come to her house and hold her down and prevent her from doing it. That's what they would have had to do. That was like the intervention that they could have done. But words wouldn't have helped. Just talking to her wouldn't have helped. They would have had to like physically be there with her to stop her. That was the only thing, because she was like her mental state was just so gone, because what the Word of God says is very important that you listen, is that guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. So if you relinquish your heart to the wrong person, it can destroy your life, your sanity, your health, your health, your mental health, your ability to even function. Sometimes heartbreaking can cause paralysis in your emotions. You could become emotionless and be so hurt that you can't even function throughout the day. I don't know if anybody has ever been hurt before, but if you've ever experienced deep heartbreak, you'll know what I mean. Sometimes it can just literally, you won't even be able to concentrate at work because you're so focused on that heartbreak. That's why God says to guard your heart. And unfortunately, Neena was already vulnerable. She didn't know how to guard her heart. She didn't really take care of her heart because she was looking for love in all the wrong places, because she had lost the love of her life, and it truly destroyed her. It destroyed her. And her family said she had so many people here to talk to. She talked to people, but she didn't want anybody to know how she was hurting. Well, she shut people out. She didn't want anyone to know. So she didn't talk until it got so bad, and that's when it's problematic. And if you guys watch the first live, we know how she deals with hurt. She deals with it alone. She said it in her blog that she likes to be alone. And so that's what she did at first. At first, when she was dealing with all this heartbreak and trauma with Kyle, she would deal it alone. And then when it became too late, where the emotions and the depression had become unbearable, she finally reached out to friends, told them what was going on. But by then, she already was like, I'm ready to end it. So it was like too late for her in her mind. So that's why it's important that you share your trauma and talk to people. Getting it out is very important. Talking it out, going to therapy, getting medication if you need it from your therapist, having friends and support groups, not shutting them out, and don't wait till it's too late. Because if you hold it all in, when it gets to that point where the enemy keeps weighing on you, weighing on you, and weighing on you, the person loses sight of rationality. They stop thinking, they stop making rational decisions, because we know that's what happened. Because back up here, when she covered the story about the self-conclusion, she was thinking rational at that point. She was saying, I don't understand how a person who would self-conclude, that's such a selfish act. It hurts all the people around them. But then she lost her sight of rationality and could no longer think like a reasonable person anymore, because of the trauma became overwhelming to the point where it drowned her reasonableness. She was drowning in hurt emotionally. It was like she was underwater, because that's how I look at it. I look at it as a drowning, because in the water symbolizes all the layers of hurt over the years, till that final hurt, the Kyle heartbreak, totally encompassed her entire body under the water of pain and hurt. Basically, all those waters, the layer of hurt. And so it drowned her out. She was drowning in heartbreak and trauma and pain, and she could no longer breathe from the pain and no longer think rationally. And so she made that very drastic decision. Even though she talked to so many people, there were so many people she could have talked to, she didn't want anyone else at that time. On Sunday, September 4th, there's going to be a celebration of her life. That is today, guys. Today is going to be her funeral at the local church in Wisconsin. So keep her family in your prayers, God. Guys, this story is so sad. So sad. If you are battling with depression, I want to encourage you to fight for your life. Fight for your life. It matters. Don't allow the enemy to lie to you. He is lying. There is no peace with self-conclusion. It does not bring peace. It brings more pain. Pain in the afterlife, pain to those people around you. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy does come in the morning. There will be hope for a better day. Some people battle mental health issues, and it may be deeper than some of the norm, because I believe there's a demon oppression that affects people. I do. There's a demon force to it. Some people are dealing with other mental health issues, such as bipolar or other medical issues. And if you are, make sure you go to your therapist. Make sure you regularly take your medication. You have to take that medication for it to work. Some people feel that they're so invincible that they stop taking the medication. And that's what also can cause dire issues to happen, which we've seen happen in another case, which I'm going to cover tomorrow. We talked about this case before, but there's been some updates on that case with the young lady in LA who crashed her car when she had a bipolar episode after she stopped taking her medication. So, I mean, there's so many layers to this, but your life matters. Call the the self-conclusion hotline. They have the 1-800-273-8255. But that's not enough, guys. Get therapy if you need it. Cry out to God. He is a source of happiness and hope. Have some spiritual support system. You need a spiritual family, a church family that can intercede and be in prayer with you, and you can consult, because a lot of those individuals at church, spiritual leaders that you consult and talk to, they really give you the love and comfort, and they can understand the spiritual influence behind self-conclusions, and also get you a support group that can help you through it. But your life matters. Don't let the enemy lie to you, that to make you believe that self-conclusion is the way out. It's not. It is not. It will not bring rest and peace. Rest and peace will be you fighting through the pain, being strong enough to rise above it and become the strong, victorious person that you are meant to be, to live a beautiful life, to overcome that trauma and be an inspiration to other people down the road, and give a hope to you to live another day and bring forth positive change in your life and your future. I love you. Take care, guys. Good night.